Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order our regular meeting on Tuesday, April 30th at 5:33 p.m. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Yeah.
Councilor Anderson, and here, Councilwoman Graves,
Yeah.
Councilor Sanchez,
Here.
Vice President, no absent, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Councilwoman Shelley Peterson for attending today. Thank you very much. We have Ken Cheverini from the City Solicitor's Office, our lovely clerks, Donna Parisian and Warren Rivieras. And we have a lot of very wonderful guests here this evening. So I look forward to hearing from all of you. Madam Clerk, actually, I'm sorry, I'd like a motion to waive the reading of items number 1 through 4.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and then we can begin then with our presentation. I think we're starting with planning proceeding. So please come up to the table, and do we have enough room? Councilwoman, you may want to move. I'm sorry, be closer to us.
I was trying to avoid the hour.
I do bite. You get it, because people always say they don't bite. I'm like, I do bite, so
Yeah. You gotta watch out.
fully warned.
I just had snacks.
That's okay, because I bite that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't look at you. State your names and your titles for the record.
Joe Mulligan, Director of Planning and Development.
Bob Azar, Deputy Director of Planning and Development.
Crystal Lindbergh, Deputy Finance Director and Budget Officer.
Mark Francini, Chief Financial.
Finance Director.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I'll start by, before you start your presentation, I will, Mr. Director Mulligan, you're gonna have to either, your clerk is gonna move this way or you're gonna move this way so I can have a direct line out. Yeah, it's prepared, but, so I'm gonna have the, exhibit entitled, City of Providence, Department of Finance, and Department of Urban Planning and Urban Development budget for FY23, marked as exhibit 3, and Second. Okay, motion made by Councilor Amdabaugh, seconded by Councilor Graves. All in favor? All opposed? Wonderful. Who would like to start?
Madam Chair, good evening again, welcome, members of the finance evening, as is typical, the finance department, led by Director Silveri, and Director Lindbergh, will read the record, a summary of the department's budget as presented, and will be available for questions. The department also available for answering questions. So with that, if I may,
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, turn over to Director Silveri.
Tonight we have before us the Department of Planning and Development. There is no revenue in this department. It's not a revenue generating department. As far as expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 are proposed at $1,652,251. This is a decrease of $200,275 from the 24 budget. And this is primarily due to the transfer of 17 positions to the Department of Housing and Human Services that occurred over fiscal 24. And you'll notice that as you review some of the operating supplies and services line items, that some of those items have gone down as well, and that is also due to the transition of some staff to the new Department of Housing and Human Services. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $905,482, a decrease of $544,036 from the 24 budget. Moving on to services, total services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $33,500, a decrease of $3,300 from the 24 budget. And this is reductions primarily due to decreases in postage and other service costs. Supplies for fiscal 25 are proposed at $364,057, a decrease of $196,462 from the 24 budget. This decrease is due to a decrease in rent at the 444 Westminster property due to reorganization and moving some of those expenses to the Housing and Human Services Department. And there is no capital in this budget. And if I may, I'd like to turn it over to Director Mulligan to make some opening remarks about his department.
Sure. Thank you. Director.
Great, thank you very much. Happy to acknowledge my 1 year anniversary with the administration last month, and in that time, it's been a pleasure and joy to work through some of the projects and initiatives that we inherited from the prior administration, make sure that those were navigated successfully or along to a level of competitiveness that we hope to resolve in the near future. We were able to further dig into the comprehensive plan process, which has been going on with great firmament and activity throughout the past year, all throughout the city and through the neighborhoods. Now we're turning the corner from proposals to written chapters, and we had our first community engagement on that process last night at the library. Have the additional coming out throughout the next couple of weeks here, to the point where we'll be able to prepare that for final review and approval by City Council in the near future. And we've had the ability to reach in and develop the administration's planning priorities that will positively impact the city throughout all its neighborhoods and improving areas that we sense they're not received the type of attention that they need in the past in order to bring them up to parity for the citizens to be able to enjoy prosperity and opportunity shared among all the residents here in Providence. So we look forward to doing the ongoing work. We're happy to have seen our cohort on the housing unit to establish one directorship, which is a needed resource for the city at this time of housing crisis. And we continue to fill out our staff to its full complement so that we can lean into many of these projects that we have coming, including quite a bit of federal and state money and grants that would be applied to improving infrastructure throughout the city to improve mobility, connectivity, and multimodal use that we look forward to providing that amenity and improving traffic circulation and traffic and pedestrian safety throughout the city. There's several initiatives that are ongoing that point to a sound economic development strategy among ourselves, as well as
these natural environments that were good for their survival.
as well as collaborating with other departments, particularly as we advance the comprehensive planning process and elucidating their priorities and incorporate them into our planning that will be in effect in the city for the next decade.
And is it appropriate to ask questions, or do you want to finish your presentation, or how would you like to handle this?
We have presented the financial information, Madam Chair, and with the director and deputy director available. We welcome questions.
Okay, all right, so we did, I guess, I just want to, you don't mind, start with comp plan, which is a favorite topic of mine, as you know. Can I just be clear, are all the chapters done, and are they out and available for the public?
No, there's still a couple of chapters that we're working on through final edit and we can review.
And which chapters are we waiting for?
Mobility, arts, culture, and tourism, and housing and community services. Housing.
And may I just ask why we are holding our public forums before the chapters have been released?
We're focusing more on the land use issues, and they seem to be the most relevant in the communities in terms of their immediate impact. Mobility talks about transportation issues. The housing is a pretty robust series of programs that we have, including the creation of the new directorate. We're certainly hoping they catch up, but we are trying to hold to a state mandated schedule and accommodate that as well. And the process has been robust and productive. It just has taken a bit longer as we move forward through some of the ancillary chapters.
Can you just give me the state mandated dates?
I'm sorry, what's that?
state mandated dates, which would,
The comprehensive plan has to be approved by the state of Rhode Island by the end of January of 2025. That's when our current comprehensive plan state approval expires. So that's our target.
got it.
And
Okay, I'm just gonna just say, as I always do, that, you know, I just think we're rushing and I understand we have a date, and I understand that we have a break in the middle of the summer, but I think that, I'm not sure that we really advertised very well the opportunities for, for constructive comments on even the land use chapter. So I'm just gonna say, I think that, you know, I know you're doing what you can, I think it's not enough, in my opinion. But, I think we need a much more robust, public, because I'm public input, I'm getting myself a lot of very detailed comments. I know I've been in touch with Tim Shea in your office about how you're gonna handle those and respond to those, but I just think it's rushed. So I just wanted to start with that. Yes, please.
Follow-up question on comp plan.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you guys for the presentation. What is the timeline on getting this to the council?
I can take that. So the first step is for the city planning commission to review it, to hold a public hearing and to vote on it, send it to the city council. We are hoping that this coming month, we're trying to schedule a special meeting where we will introduce the balance of the chapters to the city planning commission. We hope to have those finished and posted online well in advance of that meeting. And then public hearing at the city planning commission probably in June, and a vote potentially in June. And you know, if we can follow this schedule, it'll be in the council's hands, say by the end of June. Now, this is all premised on being able to organize special meetings in the city planning commission, because the commission is extremely busy. Its backlog is significant, and we're trying to stay on top of those items. At the same time, we work through the comprehensive plan. So we're scheduling special meetings. We had one last month. I think we have a date for a May meeting, but I can't say for sure. We'll probably have to have a special meeting in June for the public hearing. So with that, it could be in the council's hands as soon as, say, the end of June. And then it's yours. You have to hold a public hearing. There has to be advertising in the journal before you hold a public hearing. But that's at a minimum. I would imagine that, you know, as we are doing, you will have your own process for vetting, hearing, and approval.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, thank you, Bob. It was really helpful. Yeah, I think what I was getting to is I just don't want us getting it in November and having a quick turnaround to get it out to the state legislature. I think we have it by July at the latest, what would give us enough time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of interest on engagement from this council, so I'm sure there will be a lot of community engagement on our end as well. And then my last question on this topic, Deputy Director, you were here in the previous comp plan, correct?
I was. Previous two comp plans.
Previous two. So you have a lot of historical knowledge for my next question. From those two experiences, how much change happens from when the council, from when you give it to the council? Is there usually significant changes, or what's that process like?
There certainly is change, between the time that it's approved by the city planning commission and the time that it's approved by the council. In general, the structure, remains the same. Most of the significant goals and policies remain the same. What tends to get edited are some of the specific objectives and strategies. There has been definitely some discussion around the land use plan and the future land use map and what areas are proposed to be rezoned in particular ways. Those are generally the areas where we see the most debate, and you know, as you can imagine, you know, this is the land use chapter is the one that feeds into the zoning ordinance, so it's going to have probably the most profound impact on the way the city grows and changes over time. So, but I will say that in my experience, it's been sort of a logical progression of review and sort of iterative changes, much like any significant piece of legislation.
Fair enough. I'm sorry.
Yes, no,
I
please.
started thinking about more questions specific to the comp plan. My last question is in regards to two specific policies. The first one, I would like to get an understanding on the decision on the land use proposal that you guys have released so far. Includes R1 zoning. Can you kind of give me your explanation or thought process behind that decision? And then second, similarly is, have there been any discussions, or are we going to anticipate anything to do with parking minimums in the comp plan?
Yeah, both good questions. So with respect to R1 zoning, in the existing comprehensive plan, we identify areas as single family areas. And keep in mind that the future land use map, which is sort of the prerequisite to the zoning map, doesn't use the same terminology that the zoning map uses. It's a little bit more general. And these land use designations eventually get roughly translated into zoning districts. The land use designation that applies to what is currently zoned R1 in today's comprehensive plan, we call that single family residential. That designation is at the time it was aspirational. That's a designation that's been in the comprehensive plan for a very long time. These designations are aspirational. They're supposed to be saying, this is what we want this area to be. This is sort of what this area is, but going forward, this is what we want it to be. In the proposed comprehensive plan, it's a little bit different. We're calling it low density residential. We're not saying single family residential because for two reasons, maybe three reasons. One is that we acknowledge that our single family areas, even though they may be zoned single family, are not homogeneous. They contain many different types of housing types. Maybe predominantly single family, but there's also a fair number of 2 families, 3 families, and even apartment buildings. You know, you can look no farther than Blackstone Boulevard. If you see an apartment building on Blackstone Boulevard, that's a single family zone, and somehow there's an apartment building. So we're acknowledging that it's not only single family, and B, we're also suggesting that there could be different types of housing within this area, but still with low densities. It doesn't just have to be single family houses, there could be other types like low density row houses. Accessory dwelling units that could be built within a structure or within an outbuilding. What we're saying about our single family areas is similar to what we're saying about all of our zoning areas, which is these areas have to accommodate new housing. Some new housing, maybe not as much as what we might see in other higher density areas. But that's where we're headed with that.
Thank you.
That was the first question.
Yeah.
Remind me the second.
Parking minimums as.
Parking minimums, yes. So, we, in the existing comprehensive plan that led into, the existing zoning ordinance, we made some changes to our parking requirements. We used to have much higher parking requirements than we do today. We lowered those in 2014. For the most part, let's talk about residential. For the most part, we require one parking space for every dwelling unit, but there are a number of exceptions. In downtown, there's no parking limits. That was a big deal at the time. That was kind of groundbreaking. We now see a lot of cities doing this in their downtowns or even citywide. But in 2014, we took that step to have no minimum parking requirements in downtown. We also have what's called the transit-oriented development zone, where we don't want to see a lot of cars. We want to see high density clustered around transit. In those areas for residential, we don't require parking. And in some other areas, on small lots in certain zones, we don't require parking. And then there are some ways in which you can lower your parking requirement. Right now, we are not saying in the comprehensive plan that we're proposing to eliminate parking requirements. We are suggesting that through the zoning process, we might look for other areas where we could reduce parking. Zoning is a tool that implements the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan can suggest something without mandating it. I think that's where we are with parking.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay, yes, Counselor Vanderbilt.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I have also a few comp plan related questions that are more technical, so thank you for I always learn so much here. I guess one question I have, which you may have mentioned with Councilor Sanchez, but what is the timing of the release of the additional chapters? Partly because my gentle pushback is I think people care deeply about the mobility, community services and housing chapters, as much as they would the land use sections. They don't impact zoning in the same way, but would love to know when we can expect those, so we can socialize them with our constituents.
I would like to say that we will have them released within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
And you know, I don't want to promise you that. I know that there's still some internal vetting going on. We want to make sure that it's right, that it strikes the right tone, and is in the right format, and says everything we want it to say before we put it out. So we know we fully appreciate that a lot of people are waiting on these chapters, that they're very important, that they say a lot about what we want our policy to be going forward. And we want to make sure they're right before we put them.
Okay. And can you or Tim share them with June or Aaron, who can share them with us as soon as they're available?
Yes,
So
we will publicize widely when they're out, and we will absolutely share with council staff.
And then kind of
Yes, please.
So from a timing perspective, so the state plan council has to approve it by in their January meeting. Do they tend to take like multiple? Do you just have to submit it to their January?
So
meeting?
no, I don't think that the planning council actually approves it. I think it's actually just signed off on by the statewide, the head of the statewide planning program.
Okay,
What happens is the statewide planning, when they receive the document from us, they circulate it to state agencies for their review. There's a timeline for them for all the departments to review the plan. I don't have that timeline
yeah,
memorized, but that process, there is a statutory timeframe for that to play out. We can, they've given us the option of sharing sort of individual chapters, you know, sort of sending it to them piecemeal. What we're sort of thinking about doing is informally, once the document is complete, once it's been approved by the city planning commission, we're talking about getting it to statewide planning with the understanding that it's still got a long way to go through the council process, so that they can at least tell us if there's anything missing from a statutory perspective, so that their review can kind of be running in parallel with yours. It's not like we have to wait until you've given it second passage and the mayor signs it before we send it.
okay. It's just the project manager and maybe having worked for the state for a while, like, and not currently, but if it has to go through the process by the end of January, like we have to get it to them by probably like early December to actually make it through. I would imagine, just given how long things take.
Yeah,
And we'd have to pass it, you know, twice in November and, well, you know, back into it, something there's enough time. So I just wanted to make sure that who's like.
yeah, and again, I think if we, you know, we don't want to. We want to make sure that we know where this document is headed, and you know, so we don't want to give it to them prematurely, but we also want to make sure that we have enough time for them to see it embedded. And you know, we understand that you know, we're trying to move this along. But there's a lot of opportunity between now and we pass it for extensive community engagement. And you know, we do have this series plan. I would have loved for the full document to be done last week. We just didn't get there. We didn't want to cancel our series of meetings. We had excellent turnout at Rochambeau. 50, 60 people came over the course of the time that we were there. So what it says to us is there's interest, that a lot of people are interested in this. But you know, to the chairwoman's point, there are going to be more comments and more interest in these other chapters, and we are hearing from your constituents and all of your colleagues' constituents. And it is incumbent on us to digest, review, and respond to these comments, and we're committed to doing that.
No, I appreciate that. And just to corroborate, in the time you've been in this committee, I've gotten emails from constituents about the comp plan and asking when all the meetings are and things like that. So not that I read my emails, but they pop up and you can see what the question, you know, the subject was. And so people are watching and will care, will do more of the summer. But.
And you know, this is all of our, this plan is all of our plan.
Yeah.
You know, this is not the planning department's plan. You know, we are, you know, we're writing it, we're shepherding it through the process, but we all are owners of this plan.
And the city, it's one of yes, over it. The city comprehensive plan, or sorry, the city comprehensive commission. Wait, you know what I'm saying? Oh my God, thank you, Bob. CPC. They're gonna hold a full public hearing, so that'll be noticed in the journal and we'll know about it, can notice it to our constituents and.
Not to be confused with another public hearing they're holding on the conference plan in May, which is also going to be noticed in the journal.
Oh, what's that? Just so we can help.
That relates to a future land use map change that was introduced by your colleague, Councilor Sanchez.
Yeah.
To,
Go with testifying and support.
Okay, that's helpful.
but yeah, so if your constituents see that, they should know that it's not the full comprehensive plan, that's just a discrete proposal.
Okay. And that's just the flag, we're holding a public hearing here on the budget in June, so we should just be careful on the timing, so people aren't feeling overtaxed. They're on the same day.
Well,
We can-
I fully appreciate that. We've all got very busy dockets.
Yeah.
And it's a serious challenge. You know, as you know, pulling together public bodies, you know, notifying the public, this is an enormous undertaking that we're doing in-house. If I can fit it back to the budget, we haven't hired any consultants, it hasn't hit our budget. To do this, we have enormously talented staff that have, you know, full projects of their own on their desks at the same time. We're working through this, and I just want to say that you know, our staff is really stepping up and really performing.
We appreciate it, thank you. I'm sorry, any other comp plan questions, since that's how I kicked it off?
Not comp plan, sorry.
Yes, I think we can, we all have other
Yeah.
questions, but let me start with you, Councilor
Oh,
Peterson.
thank you. Director, happy anniversary. Can you tell me what some of the other projects you inherited from the last term were?
Many of them were real estate, arrangements, some predominantly through the redevelopment agency, but they include, trying to, find a future for Bennett Mills, ongoing activity at 50 Sims, kind of the valley area. We, are working on a property disposition process as well. That's an ongoing kind of enterprise. So one of things related to lease arrangements and how those are being reconsidered and changed and tenancy moving out and other you know, some litigation here and there on issues. So a lot of it is kind of landlord tenant relation issues and position problems.
Can I follow up with a
Yes,
question?
please.
You had mentioned Atlantic Mills, which is a topic of conversation for some of my constituents. What's the status of that?
We've been really, in a way, become kind of a de facto real estate broker for the asset. It's not our inclination to own it. We're trying to preserve the use that occurs there. We think that's an important incubator for collaborative co-working, innovation and artistry. And that is, I think, one of the great kind of green sprouts of opportunity for economic development in the city, particularly in an area in which we're seeing attrition in office use through the work from home. So the fact that we still have a full board of people and artisans who are making things and doing things, we think is important to the city. It's important to the area of Albanyville. It's a massive facility with lots of needs, lots of capital improvement requirements. But we've been able to work with the current ownership and management to ensure that that asset's stable throughout the process, that we bring some innovative folks who are looking at the asset in a strategic way to find opportunities to maintain it in its current utilization. And most likely, we're in regular discussions with the ownership. And most likely in the near future, we will issue an RFP to see what the market responds to. It's not a great time to be out in the market, given the interest costs and the construction costs and the challenges associated with it and age and even facility with this. But we do realize its importance and then moving forward for that division itself within not only the only area, but in Providence as a whole and the big Providence.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I have constituents that rent space from there, both in artistry and within the flea market areas. The maintenance or the maintaining what it is very important to them. So I've heard a little bit about what's going on, so I appreciate that. My last question is, you had mentioned federal and state grants that you're looking at. Can you talk a little bit about what you're looking for or what it is that you're projecting for this coming year?
And we have a raise grant that is going to be used for resiliency and enhancement of the riverfront area. And improving connectivity from the river to the downtown, including some pedestrian improvements, ADA compliance, as well as looking at those existing seawalls to ensure that they have integrity to them, to withstand some of the flooding that has been occurring over there, and the riverbank volatility, which is contributing to salary, it is, somewhere around this 30-year lifespan from its as-built condition, so it needs some attention, including power and lighting and other general improvements. We're looking at a state streets for all grants that will have over $30 million that will be applied to connectivity, mobility, and bike lane strategies and hardening. And installation and incorporating of that throughout the city. We're looking at improvements along the Willis-Kentucky as well. We're currently active in a construction project down in Kingsley to create a green esplanade, if you will, along the Willis-Kentucky down the valley area that will provide additional connectivity as well as enhance resiliency and sustainability by capturing and filtering stormwater and the Willis-Kentucky, but also widening the area for bike and pedestrian traffic to create more of a destination as well as a connection across the river. They will install a footbridge. And we continue to work on other ongoing projects that are related to similar types of initiatives.
Thank you. One just last comment. The North End is suffering pretty greatly with regards to all of the issues that are happening with the West River as well. So if you can seek out some opportunities for the North End to have some support, that would be great as well.
Yeah, it really is becoming a departmental cooperation effort, and I think no one entity can change or control the course of waterways, but there are multiple entities that are finding discrete resources that can be applied in specific locations as well as thinking comprehensively as well.
Thank you.
That's
it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, before you.
Oh, yeah, of
before
course.
you, I'm looking at your org chart for Director of the Department of Planning and Development. Director, are you still reporting to, will you be reporting to the new Office of Economic Development Director?
I'm not entirely sure how the organization will meet as final form, but regardless, I think that's a needed and desirable function that would be important. And whatever organizational structure is put into the planning and development group does do with some of its own marginal economic development. So I think in a way that we can collaborate together with whoever that individual is put in there would be a benefit overall.
Okay, and my concern is certainly with that response, I'm gonna say, unless there's someone else from the administration that wants to speak on this issue. I mean, my understanding of how the whole administration was going to be organized under the mayor was that our Office of Economic Development was going to be the top agency, and we had planning, ACT, I think inspections and standards, and I'm probably forgetting a department, but they were all reporting to the Office of Economic Development. So I'm wondering, here we are in budget season, and I think we need to know what the structure is. That may not be for you, Director, it could be for the chief. Or someone in the mayor's office that can talk to us about how we're what the reorg is.
Madam Chairman, I don't know the change, but certainly I would be happy to follow up the CEO. Chief Walker would have that answer.
I would appreciate it. I know, just so everyone knows, we did have, Office of Economic Development scheduled for tomorrow. My understanding is that there's gonna be a new director coming on by May 17th. And so we're gonna push that so we can speak to, and I don't know if all of you also remember that we do not vet.
Yeah, they're not.
Managers. So I think it's really important for us to understand, one of the reasons I wanted even to keep Office of Economic Development on for tomorrow is we really do need to know who's reporting to whom and why. I guess the other thing I'd like to say is I am very supportive of the Housing and Human Services Department moving out on its own, but it makes it very difficult with all these changes that have been happening. And I'm just gonna say with, you know, OEO, the Office of Economic Opportunity became the Office of Economic Development, and we have all these different departments, which I think is great, but we need as a council, in order to vet our budget and understand what's going on. It's hard to compare year to year. I was just looking through this thinking, oh my gosh, I can't, you know, I understand that the numbers are down in this budget because they're all being moved over, or some of them are being moved over to the Housing and Human Services Department, which is new, but we don't have any way of really comparing apples and apples, and that really puts us at a disadvantage. I don't know if there's any way that we can see an analysis of how those, the year-over-year comparison of all these departments, just to determine changes, in order to actually do our job of vetting, but, I'm just gonna say that at the start of this, if there's any recommendations moving forward, I certainly don't, you know, expect an answer this evening, but it is kind of hard for us to do a comparison when we've had these kind of shifting structures.
Mindful of that, Chair, members of the committee, members of the council, we'll take that under consideration and find a way that we could do it, that would provide some guidance on it.
Even if we have to reschedule you a separate little space, we certainly will, be happy to hear.
We are happy to do that because it would provide a better, smoother representation information.
I appreciate that. I do have some more questions on the word chart, but.
No.
Okay, I just thought we could go over your unfilled positions. Yeah, on the org chart, and just, can we run through those and just say why you need them? I also see that we have job descriptions attached for several jobs, so if we can just kind of, somebody could review that, that would be wonderful.
So until program manager, we actually under the redevelopment agency, that position is actually under the director of real estate. That position is nearing a resolution, and we'll have a candidate coming into that. I'm sorry, the senior real estate officer.
Okay.
And then we had the principal planner position has been problematic of getting a response. We've posted that multiple times. We have broadened our outreach in order to get a candidate to go into that position. We have, I think we can talk about some of the quantity of work on our plate here that to move forward properly with some of our planning priorities. We do need to have additional capacity in that position as well.
It's posted. It's currently posted.
And can I just stop you right there and ask, so that principal planner, that position that's posted, will they be assigned to a specific topic or?
Some of that is based on what skill sets they bring to the table. If we have a good candidate, a lot of times they will have a specialty or expertise, and then we will arrange our staff so that they're able to lean into the tasks that are more appropriate to their skill set. And we don't have full clarity on who those candidates might be at this point, but certainly have a broad base of responsibilities that any skill set that we put in would find quite a quantity of work to be attended.
Yes, please.
A follow-up to the principal planner, and your planners are all amazing. Is that the unfilled position, is that a new position, or did someone move, like when Jessica became the associate director of special project? Is that a vacancy because of the movement, or are you adding another planner?
No, that is I can't tell you exactly who that was. That might be Jess's position. Yeah, because she was acting, I believe it is, she was, now it's clicking in my brain here. She was in an acting capacity, so we kept the position unfilled
Okay,
until such time as she was put into that position permanently. So that's what one is.
okay.
Okay, and I just to go back to the unfilled position, so the neighborhood liaison would report to Tim Shea, and that's unfilled, and that's new, correct?
It's not, Tim had been the neighborhood liaison and he was promoted into community planning manager. So this would be a position that we need to backfill.
Okay. And are any of these unfilled positions new positions that are on this board?
Just on the director of fiscal operations, so that had been Sally Brito, and we had in planning and development, when it was the larger department that included the housing and community development division, it also had several fiscal officers. You'll note that while Woj is in our department, much of his pay is coming from the federal government through PUD, and much of his work will he will contribute to the fiscal operations of housing and human services. The other fiscal officers moved into that department. And so we're going to have a need for just one fiscal officer in this department. So that's what that is. Manoj just started, Sally retired, not a month ago.
And if you'd like to stand, we'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming.
I don't know what this was the last 11 years.
Okay,
In the city department, and always had
very nice of you to come and see me. Hey, look at what you're at. Oh,
Question on order.
yes, please.
Just a simple question on my end. What's the main difference between, or qualification difference between planner and principal planner?
Good question. So planner requires a bachelor's degree and several years of experience, or a master's degree with no experience. Principal planner requires a master's degree plus experience. It's three or 5 years. So the principal planners are many of those started off as planner and worked their way up. It's kind of a progression.
Thank you.
So is that the job description, grade 30? Is that this attached?
Yeah, to have that, the reason we included that is because there's one position, one planner position here, a gentleman named Led Simon, who is currently a planning technician, and we're proposing to promote him to planner because he has the minimum qualifications, and because he's an outstanding employee with unique skills in our department.
And then the second job description that is attached is the office manager. And where is that?
That's right. You'll see that in the second column. That starts in Charleston.
Yeah,
So this is to line up with her duties as they stand, plus additional duties that we would bring it to her, including overseeing work of the clerk and customer service associates. And this is also, to bring, her job description and her compensation in line with other office managers in other departments.
She also serves as a secretary at the regional agency.
Yes, please. Was she who used to be administrative assistant, so the defund administrative assistant, okay, so it's a change for $6,000, okay.
Great, I'm happy if any other reading members have any questions. Yeah, I have a minor question. Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
A little bit based on the org chart, but going off the FTE count that's in our budget books. We have principal planner that's at 6.9 FTEs,
Yes.
what's up with that?
Jason Martin is, the principal planner. He does, most of the, historic preservation work in our office. One of the duties that he's done for a number of years is, he conducts what are called environmental reviews, for projects that are funded with federal money. If there's money, for example, to abate lead in a house, there needs to be under the federal regulations, there needs to be an environmental review to demonstrate that this work is not going to have an adverse impact on historic resources. So he does that work and he gets paid 10% of the salary comes out of the federal government. So whenever you see a portion of an FTE, generally the remainder of that is going to be paid for out of federal.
Okay, is that the same story then for the customer service associated with
Yes.
school? Okay.
Please.
I was just wondering, just looking at the comparing year to year on page 151 under expensive, under supplies. It looks like rental of land and buildings, the expense has gone down by like more than $100,000. Whereas the line above it, I'll just ask all my questions at once, like that little cluster, there's been a number of changes, like miscellaneous professional services went from $8,000 in budgeted FY 24 to $146,000, which is quite a leap. So just wanted to know about that, and then below it, the rental of land and building, significantly decreased.
We want to start one at one.
Yeah, they're next to each other, so yeah.
So I believe you might be looking at the year-to-date number for fiscal 24, not the budgeted number. So the swing is not.
Oh, yeah,
as dramatic as it
but
was.
yeah, the budget number for. Well, let's start with miscellaneous professional services. FY 23, which I assume is the actual number, was $20,000, and then year-to-date FY 24 is 146. Even though in the budget we approved it was $9,000. So that still is quite a swing. I can walk over there. I'm reading these things out loud.
So that column that you're reading that shows the 8,900, that column is year to date. So if you look over to the right a little bit.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Your column for 24 budget and then 20.
Oh, yeah, okay, I was mixing those up, but still, like, why are 24 and 25 so much bigger than 22 and 23? Like 22 was 80, 23 was 20, and now it's 146.
Yeah, it could be timing of when the expenditures hit our general ledger. We are only through April currently. And so there could be planned expenditures for the second half of the year that typically hit in April, May, June that have not been charged to general ledger yet.
Okay, can you share what is a miscellaneous professional service?
Sure. So miscellaneous professional services are project design, planning studies, environmental studies, so there's funding available for any sort of studies that need to happen throughout the year. There's $16,000 assigned to graphic design for the comprehensive plan. And then there's $30,000 assigned for economic development studies that need to happen throughout the year. So some of the delay in spending may be due to the absence and yes, exactly.
And
Timing of the comp
plan.
plan. Exactly.
And so are we expecting then that same expenditure for FY 25 if some of those are comp plan driven?
No, well, they're not complementing. I would potentially argue that the work that's happening on the comp plan is causing other studies to not happen concurrently. And so that next year, they will need that funding because there will be additional resources to be, exactly.
Okay, that helps, thank you. And then the line below it, it looks like year-to-date spending is 266 for rental and buildings, but we're expecting 172 for FY 25.
Yep, so our rent at 444 is allocated for, like, for square footage of staff that are there.
Because the housing department.
Yes, so you'll see a big increase on rent for their department because of the 17 staff members moving from one department to the other.
Oh, okay.
Which is what I was saying.
Yeah,
That's all interesting here.
Yeah, I would appreciate that because I think to put a finer point on what Chairwoman Anthony said, it puts us at a disadvantage, but if I'm being super honest, if I value money, it also makes me suspicious and I'm wondering what else is hidden where. Not that I would suspect that of this team of 3 here, because you guys are amazing, but you can hide a lot in moving things around. Not that you are, that's not what I'm saying, but it just makes me nervous in a way that I prefer not to be. And would love that kind of clarification.
Certainly, so we can do for the Housing and Human Services hearing is to have a full reconciliation at that time of that hearing to say, here's what came from planning, here's what we had in 24, here's the new budget in 25. We already have some of that done internally, so I'm just prepared to have that for the housing division conversation when that comes up, if that would be soon enough for you folks.
That would, if I can interrupt, so that would be the only org change that we have to evaluate year to year at least.
Correct,
So
yes.
and then if we went year before that, any org changes, it's been hard over the past years trying to figure it out. But if we could also know what org changes have been made and where the departments have made changed, that would be helpful too.
So you'd also like to know, so last year we made some changes out of planning and economic and into economic development.
Yeah.
So you'd like me to itemize the 2 years worth of changes, like
It
how
would be very helpful if we could catch 2 years, only because there have been, in my opinion, some significant changes.
Of course.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We know how hard you work, but we really appreciate it. And then did you also want to do repairs to office equipment or?
Oh, no, rental with that's fine. And I had one more comment than question. It was more, following up on what Bob said, and what you said, Chairwoman, it's more gratitude for the planning staff, because I know Bob, you and a lot of the staff are working so hard on the conference and also still doing all the zoning changes and all the, and you in particular have made a lot of time to me as things come up, a number of controversial things in my neighborhood, and it's impressive that you're juggling all that while also doing the comp plan, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. Now to my general questions. Sorry if I missed something, but what's not adding up to me is we're taking 17 positions out of this department to the housing department. But the salary decrease is only 200,000. Can someone explain that?
Yeah, certainly. So the bulk of the positions that were shifted out of the planning department are at least partially or mostly grant funded. So the actual shift in salaries is not as significant as you would think, because the general fund was only picking up a portion or none of the salaries of the folks that shifted out of planning into housing and human services.
Makes sense. My next question is specific to Atlantic Mills, off of my colleague's question. I also have a significant interest from my neighbors in my neighborhood when it comes to the future of Atlantic Mills. With that being said, the last I had heard was we were waiting on some environmental tests. Have those come back then? So we're pretty much ready for an RFP right now?
Yeah, we are wrapping up a phase 2 environmental assessment of the facility. Obviously, it's as a lot of the legacy uses that in today's context are considered a burden to the site. So we've been able to categorize those and identify. They are what I would consider a typical urban condition for a city, post-industrial city of this age, and that speaks specifically to the type of activity occurred on that site. That was an important process to do, because regardless of the ownership of the building in the future, that work would have been had to have done.
Mhm.
And that adds clarity to the type of use that could occur or restrictions that may be encumbered onto that site based on those findings and then based on the process for whether remediation or capping in situ or some other methodology that subsequent ownership would have.
Thank you. Well, I have you, Director, if I'm good, Chairwoman.
Mhm.
Going off of the chairwoman's question, what I'm most interested in, because being honest, for me last year, the whole creation or the position, the reorganization of having economic development oversee, planning and arts and tourism and code inspection didn't make sense personally to me. So I want to get your thoughts on how has your job changed or not changed, having someone in that position? What's the impact of having someone in that position directly to you as director of planning? And vice versa, how has it been not having someone in that position?
I think the benefit of having that structure early on in the process compels that cohort to be assembled in one place and to discuss priorities, which many have been established. What is also beneficial is that my fellow directors, we are all in the same building, many of us are on the same floor, and that early establishment of that organizational structure allowed us to get to know each other better and facilitated our ability to collaborate and work amongst each other. Those connections and relationships continue to remain strong and productive and frequent engagement. The role of economic development is a critical importance to the city. We are not a wealthy city by many comparisons. We are a city in transition, still from some of our legacy industrial uses to new technologies, many of which are, I think, could be exemplified by activities occurring down around the port. We are continuing to find our footing in a post-COVID environment in which we have to consider the amount of people coming into work during the day, the amount of people who are not coming into work, expiring leases and other externalities that have created tension in the office market. We need somebody whose role is to go out and find strategies and opportunities and to be a much more outward-facing individual to do those tasks, and that would be the role of the economic development director. I think one of the challenges in the past structure was that somebody who would benefit from being much more outward facing and, you know, on the road, if you will, and looking to meet with CEOs and meet with other businesses and develop clusters and other innovative strategies, also had to do administrative work, right? Had to manage a multitude of departments. And I think that in some ways may have been limiting. So whichever structure balance that we can find to allow the fullest attention paid to economic development strategies, as well as continuing collaboration among the directors that contribute to that sector. I think that the city's actually in a very good place, and that's a tribute to my colleagues, a tribute to the administration's focus and guidance and their kind of determination on the direction which the city should go. So I'm quite comfortable with this interim period that happened, that work continued to move forward. It did not stop, it did not stall, it did not curtail. We continue to lead into the work required in order to advance the economic development strategies for the city.
Thank you, Director. I think you answered it there towards the end. So it's pretty much sounds like not having someone in that position has not stopped your department from being able to do work.
Not only mine, but some of my fellow colleagues as well.
The question's coming to you, Director, too.
We continue to collaborate, we continue to work cooperatively.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay, I just have I'm just using your proposed budget that you handed out. just looking at fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 24 percentage changes. You know, I see that most of them are reductions because of, I'm assuming because of the Department of Health and Human Services, but there is an increase in the local 1033 benefits expense of 43%. Can someone speak to that?
So. I'm sure you weren't here when we went through our little overview last week, but we have new budget software this year, which is how things look very different than they did in previous years. And it is allocating fringe benefits on a per employee basis, so we are able to now get a full FTE cost. And one of the things we have found throughout this process is how the software is allocating fringe benefits is not the same calculation methodology we were using when we were hand calculating them. So you're gonna see throughout this budget process some kind of wild swings in fringe benefits. However, the total cost is accurate and correct and can be found towards the back of your budget book if you'd like to see the total cost for all of our fringe benefits.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you. That's very good because that'll come up again and again. Dues and subscriptions are up 33%. Just thought that was,
Oh, yes, my understanding. So the department will be adding additional members to the American Planning Association, and so those costs are going up to account for that change.
okay, so that's for additional members to the department.
Yep.
Okay, and then the last one I wanted to ask about was the 50% increase in transportation training.
Again, that's additional staff members to attend the APA conference. So that is the conference fees and travels associated with that.
But also reflective of the burgeoning cost of travel and accommodation.
Okay.
That would be the only thing that remains steady is our salary.
Good point. Okay. All right, I think that's it for my questions. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, and last and final question. Just to planning, how involved or your expertise has been consulted on the proposed removal of a certain bike lane in our city?
Yeah, I categorize it as relocation. We have multiple iterations of designs for different types of configurations of that area, and the current proposal is to really shift that existing bike lane about 8 feet to the riverside. We will be engaged in a layout for striping and design and wayfinding in order to coordinate that while we work through this coordination issue with the ancillary transportation challenges that the city's facing, which are real and significant. I'd like to remind people that right behind this accommodation that we're making, the relocation, is over in excess of $30 million that we will come back with a design in order to formalize that with a greater width of raised level separation of those transportation modes. So this is really just kind of an interstitial relocation in anticipation of a more hard and robust pathway in that specific location in Saltwater that we get it right.
Yes, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to argue on the technical terms. My question was how involved planning was on such proposals, so it sounds like you guys have been heavily involved.
We provide multiple options for consideration of review in order to kind of right size the travel lanes that we think we're going to have to anticipate for this during the duration of this construction. And then we are currently, it should be noted that there was an approximate 13-month delay in the federal receipt of the funds associated with the bike lane. So had we not had that delay in funding, we would be pretty close to finalizing permanent designs right now, being prepared to go out for bid construction. So due to the vagaries of the federal funding, we are a little bit out of sync between the immediate concerns for circulation and transportation issues, but I'm satisfied that we do have the dimensions in along that riverfront with multiple pathways that can accommodate pedestrian traffic as well as bicycle traffic.
So when you're talking about the federal funding, is that $27 million grant?
Right.
So we haven't received those funds?
No, we have.
We have received those funds?
We received them last month. And so we are currently in the process. We have hired and I put out an RFP for multiple design consultants. I think we have about 4 engineering firms who will then be allocated for multimodal connectivity strategies throughout the city, and they will each kind of have a cohort in a different part of town. We're finalizing the contract negotiations and signatures currently, and we should be completed within the next month or so to begin those design iterations for longer term connectivity strategies throughout the city.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Councilor Vanderbod.
Director, are you saying that what I think I just heard, but might not have heard correctly, is that the funding for the movement of the bike path is coming from the $27 million Safe Streets for All grant and not leftover CIP funding?
No, that was my mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was the $27 million you referenced then?
Also, the $27 million will not be for the relocation, that would be for the CIP. The 27 is the bulk amount from the federal government with the matching share by the city that is supposed to be $34 million.
And what's that getting spent on?
And
Was that relevant to the bike path or what was that?
yes, that's for Safe Streets for All grants to improve connectivity, circulation, pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
All manner of
It's the urban trail network.
Yeah, I told that grant, but my understanding was that the movement of and this could just be incorrect, or maybe I was wrong. The movement of this trail was supposed to be through old CIP funding, but now I'm hearing it's the Safe Streets for All grant.
No, the final iteration will be through the Safe Streets for All grant. The current reorganization, I presume, is being done through capital improvement.
Maybe we could follow up on that, because I feel like this is different information than we've heard before, so I'd love to follow up with you that with you.
So from my understanding in this conversation, the removal aspect is still gonna be funded through the CIP funds, what the director's saying, the relocation,
Okay.
the director's
Would
be used.
This is an intermediate condition that will then be expanded upon by the Safe Streets for All. So as soon as this thing is relocated, we start the design for a future more permanent condition down there.
And so when we put in the Safe Streets for All grant, though, we put in a $27 million grant application, what are we cutting out of that to do this project? That wasn't originally thought of when we put in the application. Because we put in the application before the movement was proposed.
So the relocation is through existing funds. Not
Yeah, I'm saying the 27 million, we applied for more than a year ago.
Yeah.
We applied for a suite of projects, I'm sure. And now there's a piece of it that'll be used to build a bike path where there already is a bike path. That wasn't in the original proposal. So what's getting cut out of the original proposal?
No, I think it wasn't. It was a movement to formalize. Right now, the existing bike lane is delineated through striping and plastic bollards. The intent was always to find a more permanent solution to that. That is really, I think we've all seen the condition of these things for a couple of years.
Yeah.
The intent was to, and we're just starting that design, to look at ways to delineate that with a fixed curve. Also potential to raise it above the roadway grade and incorporate it more onto the sidewalk height. So there's all, in it, there will be portions that will continue to be in these kind of more temporary components that have a limited lifespan as compared to granite curb and bituminous and concrete. So we're looking at strategies to minimize the amount of kind of plastic bollards and striping, and to get it into a more peaceful infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we finished with our questions? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate all you do for the city and thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going on. So now we're going to go right along to arts, culture, and tourism. Actually, that's culture, film, and tourism. Director Wilson.
Film?
Yeah, I just saw it. Thank you.
Okay.
So can we swear you in?
Yes.
Yes. We swear in the town president that the testimony is on the case of the truth and the facts. So hopefully we can have to make sure they do.
Hello, my name is Joe Wilson Jr., and I'm the Director of Art, Culture, and Tourism and Film for the great city of Providence.
Hi, I'm Masha, I'm the administrative coordinator for ACT.
Thank you, have a seat. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Bob. So, before we start, I'm going to ask that we mark, the handout as exhibit number 4.
Second.
All right, the motion made by Councilor Vanderbilt, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor? All opposed. And now we're going to turn it over to the director.
Hello. Just to table set a little bit, I'm just going to say thank you all for your support of the Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism. But also say how proud I am. This is my second budget submitted. I'm a year and 3 months into this job. And after spending the majority of my life as an actor and director in the theater, this has certainly been a different kind of show, but a wonderful experience. What I am most proud of whenever I speak about the Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism is to give folks a sense of the wide breadth of work that we do. You should know that we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of our department this year, and that whenever I travel around the country and speak to our cultural heritage partners around the country and even around the globe, that ACT, this is special for a city to have endowed an agency or a department with the work that we do. This department has been widely celebrated. The city is widely celebrated for really being at the beginning and the center of cross-sector collaboration as far as our creative sector and other parts of government. And so just to give you a sense, we are proud that we are one of, if not the only, the only entity in the city that provides funding for artists and small 501c3s. We manage an extensive public art portfolio through the Art and City Life Commission, as well as new commemorative works through the Committee for Commemorative Works. We also have several placemaking initiatives that we are continuing to engage with, including Broad Street Stories and a brand new initiative that we have called the Providence Commemoration Lab. In addition, this department launched last year our second 10-year cultural plan, PBD by 2031. And we have already begun to operationalize parts of that plan, including a comprehensive, and just to say about this plan, this is an ACT's plan. Much like we heard from my colleagues in planning, this plan was truly developed of, by, and for the citizens of Providence. This plan began development in 2019, and then of course, COVID hit in 2020. And I speak to you also as an artist that went through COVID, which my friends joke and say that probably drove me out of the theater. That was a very, very difficult time for creative practitioners in this city and across this nation and around the world. And so, and then we were also in the midst of, along with theaters being shut down, along with teachers, arts teachers, having to switch and develop an online mode of teaching. That we were also going through a period of another social justice reckoning. And so the cultural plan developed by the people very much reflects the priorities of our creative stakeholders. And there are 3 parts that we're working right now to operationalize. Number 1, we are in the final stages of a comprehensive cultural heritage tourism marketing strategy that's been developed in collaboration with the Q Group This is a strategy that we've already shared with the Providence Tourism Council and the folks at CBB. And the overarching message of that plan is to develop a greater synergy between RI Commerce, CBB, and PTC and ACT to tell a clearer and more comprehensive and more importantly, representative story of who we are here in Providence. Secondly, we are engaging in a comprehensive life at night study, which has also come as a recommendation of the cultural plan. We're working on the final stages of that study now, but it is the position of the administration that we should pay as much attention to what happens from 9 a.m. to 5 as we do from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Overnight. That we have to stop this cycle of stigmatizing or the stigmatization of life at night, because many of our cultural stakeholders, I used to work at night. And yes, I walked home, but good luck with going to catch a bus home at night, or find a place to eat at night, or to shop for groceries at night. And so many of the cultural stakeholders that we support inherently through our work with ACT will benefit from us developing a comprehensive life at night strategy, as well as continuing to create more opportunities for economic development. And finally, continuing to work and expanding our arts integration to our young people in Providence public schools. We understand that we are in the midst of a lot of change and transition as it relates to our students, but ACT and the mayor remain steadfast in making sure that we use arts as a gateway for not just training the next Viola Davis or Joe Wilson Jr. But training folks. We understand the power of arts practice as a tool. Arts practice is a way of building community. Arts practice as a way of allowing people to see themselves and others. Arts practice in building collaborative spaces. Arts practice as being a major component in preserving our sense of connection to each other and our greater humanity. I've often said that arts education will be the two sectors that will indeed help us save us from ourselves. And so there's a wide scope of what we do, and I'm proud to always platform this department, but not only platform of the great work of my adopted city of Providence, Rhode Island. And so with that, we can let the games begin.
Very good intro. Hard to follow, so.
Finance overview.
Someone else?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Are you done?
I'm done.
Would you like to say something before I start asking questions?
Oh, this is going to be the presentation on the
handout.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So we'll, if you want to hold your question, we'll.
Okay.
You guys have
I will
Like to
try
hear
to
myself.
do the same, but I'm just gonna take the committee through the finance overview for the Department of Art, Culture, Tourism and Film. Revenue in fiscal 25 is proposed at $133,700, a decrease of $3,000 from the fiscal year 24 budget, and that is based on trend. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 are proposed at $495,939, an increase of $77,868 over the 24 budget. And the department has requested the following organizational changes. They would like to fund a fiscal operations manager, limited to grant funding at a general fund cost of $40,795. Fund a constituent engagement coordinator, also with grant funding, and a $27,197 general fund expense. They would like to defund a program director turnaround arts at $63,399 and instead fund a director of arts teaching and learning at $68,298, and then total net change of $72,891. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $224,383. It's a decrease of $36,235 from the fiscal year 24 budget. Services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $741,706, a decrease of $42,594 from the 24 budget. And this decrease is primarily due to reductions in contractual services based on trend. Supplies for fiscal 25 are proposed at $298,305, an increase of $2,415. And this increase is due to additional funding for training and an increase in rental contracts. And there's no capital expense in this category. Happy to open up the floor for questions.
I'm just gonna start, thank you so much, Director. I just wanted to start with the question on, what is a reduction in contractual services based on trend? And specifically looking at the 42,590 or 100 services.
So one of the things this department has done very well and we're appreciative of is really examine their budget, examine all of the programs they're offering and provide an accurate estimate of what each program will cost. As a result of that, they've determined that they will need approximately $42,000 less in fiscal year 25 to provide the same level of funding programs that they're providing currently.
Wow, okay. Very nice job. Okay, we're gonna open it up to any committee members or counselors that have any intention of the Christmas. Yes, please, Councilor Gray.
Thank you. I have a little script here because I need it. There's a $250,000 line item for grants. How do these grants get approved?
Well, I'm actually really proud of our grants process, because first of all, the project fund gets administered twice a year. There's a fall allocation and there is a spring allocation. And our projects fund, of course, we offer a $4,000 maximum fund for either of those two rounds. So if someone applied for obviously both rounds and were awarded, it would keep them under a cap that we would not have to go out to bid. We also offer throughout the year a $500 micro grants, because it's really important, especially in this space where, you know, we're supporting also organizers, artists who are sometimes writing a grant for the first time, or who are new to spaces of producing in public space. And so these little micro grants allow them access and experience in then preparing them for, to test out ideas, to workshop whatever they're thinking, to then apply for a larger grant. The other thing I'm proud of about the grant process is that this is not an ACT internal process. Yes, there are members of the ACT staff who are part of a panel that we assemble, but this is, all grants are awarded through a paneling process that includes members of the ACT staff and members from our creative community. And so it's a collaboration, each application is read and scored according to a rubric that we have with ACT, and that rubric includes everything from accessibility to budget, to achievability of the plan, to you know, how many people will be reached, attendance, diversity, including diverse communities. And so it's a rubric plan process. It's a panel process, and it's a collaborative process between members of the ACT staff and members of the Providence community.
So please, yes.
Okay, so the Providence community, the greater community, what does that consist of? Do you have a board that people that sit there, or you just, how do you go about it? You go into the arts community and get people, like maybe, I don't know, ribs or, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
these folks obviously get a large database of cultural stakeholders that have interacted with our department before. Many of these panelists are previous grant awardees. Many of these panelists are producers in public space. Because of course, and you know, I haven't even talked about the work that we do in terms of production. We produce 3 signature festivals, but we also support events being produced in rec centers and in your districts all season long. And so we have a wide variety of people that we are able to pull from to be able to provide their handling expertise. Many of these folks have received grants. Many of these folks have produced in public space. Many of these folks work in, as we're learning with our cultural heritage tourism plan, one other recommendation of that plan is to create a database of all of our cultural stakeholders. That will be an ongoing working document and identifying which of these cultural stakeholders are ready to go to market, are ready to be, pushed out by the PTC and CDP, and those organizations that need our support. You mentioned RIBS. RIBS is an organization that is, they're at market, they're doing their thing, Valtuts, and they're doing their thing. There are other cultural stakeholders that we're trying to shepherd along. So it's a combination of folk who serve on these, on the paneling, in the paneling process. But we make sure that the people who are able to read these applications and to be able to provide not only their stamp of approval, but more importantly, feedback for those who we don't select for any given round of funding.
So you go to all the cultural,
individual artists, smaller 501c3s,
yeah.
the whole nine.
Okay, and you talked about 501c3, are they the only ones to get this, or is it goes to everybody?
That's a terrific question. Again, it's true, we do require an association with the 501c3 to receive funding. And when I say association, we are asking that our individual artists link up with, it doesn't matter the size of the 501c3, but to link up with the 501c3 to act as a fiduciary. And this is the reason why, because having a fiduciary, number one, as a department of fiduciary, it helps us pay money, it helps us pay people faster having a fiduciary. It also creates a mechanism for accountability. As an artist who received money in the public space, and sometimes I have not had a fiduciary, I'm also charged taxes on that money. And so it really acts as one buffer for the artist in terms of support from that 501c3, making sure that they are able to pay and pay their artists, because we have lots of grantees who come to ask for $4,000. That money is not just going to one person, it's going to an event they're producing, and they have 10 artists they're paying, so that helps. That 501c3 helps them get that money to those artists in a more expedited manner. But it also, again, serves as a level of accountability for that producer being associated with that 501c3.
I understand all this because as I say, I ran entertainment. I was in the entertainment business for numerous years, and I understand all this. My other question is, what the water fire, each water fire is a grant and not a contract. Does ACT manage the vendors at each water fire?
Great question. We celebrate water fire. Water fire is an incredible cultural asset to the city of Providence, but ACT has absolutely nothing to do with how water fire runs their business as a large 501c3 producing entity in this city.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, please, go ahead. Continue with your list of questions.
How much is funded in the budget for PVD? How long is the contract? And is it super, and how long is the contract?
Well, we're in the second year of a contract with First Works. I also want to say I appreciate everyone's support of the PVD Fest. We're really excited about this year. We're excited to be back downtown. But again, First Works operates in that same way as a fiduciary partner with the department, but they also act as a producing partner, using their expertise in terms of their connections to national acts and international performers. Last year, in the middle, I got on the job, and the mayor was sworn in on the 2nd or 3rd. I started the next day, and we literally had to go back out to bid for PVD Fest in March, which is when folks talk about timeline, what we're dealing with. This is one of the many things that when it goes into producing a festival that we deal with. We had to go back out to bid, which meant that I couldn't talk to anybody about PVD Fest for like 2 months. And so we were able to enter into, and it was a desire to enter into a 1-year contract with a 1-year option, because we felt that it was only right to be able to provide First Works the opportunity to produce a festival that will be celebrating 10 years of activation of the cost.
Okay.
So we went into a 1 year with a 1-year option, and we entered that 1-year option this year.
Okay. I wanted to know, and you may not have this, what the explanation is for last year's payment to vendors for that rain out fee. I know it cost the state, not the state, the city. I wish we could charge this. The city, it was like 5,000 for the vendors each.
500 each.
500 each, okay. So I have an extra zero here, let me just get it out. So why couldn't the city do this themselves? Right? Do you understand my question?
I do, to be truthful, I can't answer the question why the city didn't do it, why do we take complete responsibility, but I can say is RI Commerce stepped up
Okay,
and offered to match funds, so RI Commerce, supported not only PBD Fest, but they supported this reimbursement. And again, this was a Sunday reimbursement because most of our vendors on Saturday had the opportunity to work, a full day. It began to rain at about 5:30. Mavis got on at 6:10, thank God. But Sunday was a complete washout. And so RI Commerce spoke to them, and I again don't have all the backroom machinations of it, but spoke to the city and said, hey, listen, we're going to offer $29,500 to help reimburse vendors, and we're asking the city to match us. So we matched their $29,500 and provided $500 for those vendors who were on the footprint on Sunday, and I believe that came out to about 118 vendors in total on the footprint that evening. And so we had not just, but a few weeks will close out the process. With RI Commerce, we had about 82 vendors who stepped up to say, hey, we were there, it'll be reimbursed. And so we're really proud of that partnership with Commerce. We're really proud about the fact that we were able to provide some relief for vendors that day. And I'm happy to say that it really garnered, I believe, some goodwill. I think that looking at the numbers coming to our portal this year, there was a lot of excitement about the festival. And so I'm thankful to RI Commerce. I just had a meeting with Anika on last Friday, and so it was a wonderful collaborative opportunity for both the city and the state.
and the last not a question, is more of a comment. I just want to say, welcome back to the city. Because once you leave a certain grid, you're no longer considered by most people, part of downtown. And downtown, most of our constituents will say belongs to them. And when you move it too far in any direction, you're making it more of a neighborhood thing for that particular side. So I'm glad that we're bringing it back. I appreciate, and I do give the mayor credit for standing up and saying that it was a mistake. So, welcome back, welcome back.
Yes, Councilor Vanderbilt.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just have a few quick things, and 2 points of gratitude. So 3 points of gratitude. Thank you for your presentation. You should do all the presentation. I also really, as reading your thing, I just wanted to point out, I love that your goals, I feel like sometimes you get some generic things, your goals include radical joy and anti-racism, which I really appreciate as goals of the department. Those are things I want our residents to feel, and I really appreciate that you highlighted that. I also want to thank you. We have the film crews across the city recently, and particularly in Ward 3 recently, and you guys were so helpful. 1, with that, and 2, because some trees were damaged, and you guys were like right on that, and that was so nice of you, so I appreciate that. And then the question I have about films is, do we get revenue from that? Like, do they pay for permits? Do we get any, besides just people being so excited that they saw Mini Lee Curtis all over Hope Street for a little bit? Like, do we get monetary?
The state.
The state gets it.
We facilitate the process, but that's the state.
Okay, can they give us some?
Not fair.
They should, because we facilitated that. And then the non-film question. In the summary of revenue and expenditures, there's miscellaneous receipts on revenue at like 120,000. What are miscellaneous receipts?
So the bulk of that is a payroll reimbursement we get from the convention center. So if you look over to page 15, you can see the breakdown of that.
Oh,
So there's about 2,500 in miscellaneous revenue that does come in for various. Yeah, exactly. Yep, so the Providence and household provides that payroll reimbursement, which is the bulk.
Oh, okay, that's helpful, because I also had a question what payroll reimbursement was. So
Yeah.
you two for one. Thank you for that. And any other question? I think you preemptively, oh, this is a small question, but a number of my constituents have been asking what the status of the sidewalk poetry is, and I think that's a combination of you and DPW, so if you have anything I can.
I'm happy to say it's happening.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. We've had some issues, who knew that it's such a problem, is finding concrete contractors and the whole 9 yards, and so it's happening. These tattoos are gonna be in, we think mostly, this year.
Oh,
And
great.
so we're so excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was
A number
a long
of
time
poets
coming.
living for 3, and they'd be like, where's my art? I'm
It's a
like,
legacy project that, yeah, no, we're really making some movement on this now. We're working closely with DPW. They have just found a vendor
oh, great.
that will help, first of all, fix the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And who we are then gonna work with to make sure that these tattoos are installed, so we're looking at this year.
Awesome. Thank you so
Great.
much. I think those are my main questions. Yeah.
Okay, yes, Councilor Graves.
I'm piggybacking off my colleague. The sidewalks are fabulous, I think it's a wonderful idea. But in every single one of our committee meetings, I think we keep coming up with the graffiti. And we want to know about putting murals, because we know that once they see a mural, they usually do not tag it. So.
Murals and electrical boxes.
Yes, so we really. If we can add that to something under you guys, maybe we can get that done in areas, and these business people won't have to keep coming up out of their pocket. Because we pay for one, I believe, and that's it. But once they're tagged and you go and you clean it up and you make a nice bright board for them to come back and tag it again. You know, so hopefully that's in the process somewhere along the line, and if it isn't, could you please take this little bug and put it in your ear and carry it to where it can be talked about?
Well, I'm happy to say that it's happening. This is an example of the cross-sector work that ACT does, you know, with planning and with all folks, and so we, I guess I can speak about this. We
A lot of years.
administration around secure graffiti remediation. And so we have awarded a contract to a vendor. It is a substantial contract, about $250,000.
Wow.
That we're investing in 6 brand new murals around the city, and we're also painting 50 more of the electrical boxes around town. And so we can't obviously announce the vendor because we can't enter this contract yet. But we have invested $250,000 with the help of Chief Operating Officer Hawkins and my department, and we're so excited about it. We're really, it's so exciting to be able to actually do this. And so, yeah, it's happening.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Director, thank you, Finance team, for this review. Going off of the graffiti conversation, what seems to be a big issue is obviously graffiti, but where I'm kind of running into issues, because I know that locking kids up for graffiti isn't a real first world solution to the issue. And I think you, Director, would recognize that. So you obviously understand the importance of different alternative solutions like public art, like public murals. But where I'm really running into an issue myself is I obviously know the spots in my neighborhood that get tagged up. I work with the business owners, like my colleagues mentioned, we get public property to come clean it up once a year. But where I'm seeing a serious disconnect is from public property, and obviously a big responsibility is on us as well. and finding community partners to do public arts, public murals. So I've started doing a couple in my ward, but if we could somehow find a proactive program between departments where something like that is a little more streamlined, or if you guys have vendors on hand where if counselors have certain funds just to get it out the door much quicker. Just an idea. I know you're already working on it and mentioning it, but that's where I kind of have seen the biggest challenge is we obviously know where it's at. We know there's so many people in the city that want that opportunity and deserve that opportunity, but kind of coordinating all together to make it an easier path is, I think, what I'm trying to get to.
Absolutely. I would just say that, you know, in choosing the vendor, they go through the same rigorous paneling process based upon a rubric that we would put small 501c3 to ask us $4,000. And so our partners, that's one of the pieces of that rubric that we look for. Cultural competency and what is the community engagement aspect of the project. I know the administration is keenly aware of all that you speak of. I'll even add something else to that, you know, you speaking about the criminalization of these activities. There's lots of best practices all around the world that we are discussing right now in terms of, you know, creating public spaces where this activity is allowed, or even more importantly, us having the cultural competency to know that as we try to tackle graffiti in the city, understanding what is graffiti and what is not. That's a big piece of this as well. We don't just want to walk around with a hose spraying everything down. That's not the way this is going to work. And I also appreciate what you're saying in terms of that community engagement piece and making sure that we have people on the ground and voices on the ground who are able. So I welcome that conversation with you and with all of you. Once I'm able to talk more about the project and about our partner, more importantly, to be able to have these kinds of on the ground conversations to make sure that we do this the right way. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, so just quickly, is there any public walls where folks can graffiti? I know there's like a wall at the Avenue
Concept, that's, yeah.
Is there anything else outside of that?
Nope. And that's one of the
That's
things
like
that
one of the
we're
underlying
exploring
issues,
and
yeah.
thinking about now. And where that could be in that way.
Thank you. Am I good to keep going?
Please, you can keep going.
In regards to nightlife, I really do appreciate your comments around that. As a younger person, I definitely, you know, try to enjoy the youthful years that I have. And a lot of that happens after hours at possible establishments that are later at night. Not sip joints. I don't attend sip joints for the record. But that's always been like a thought process, especially like right now, as we see, there's so many different issues and questions when it comes to nightlife. Something that I've kind of have heard for quite a while now, to be honest, is a nightlife study that I believe your department has been working on, and I know you kind of touched on it. Where are we with that exactly?
We're working for the, sorry.
No, that was it.
We're waiting right now to find deliverables. We're very close with receiving that from the vendor. We're really close. So I would hope that within the next month that we would have that final deliverable before you.
No, I appreciate that. Something I mentioned before is just the identity piece to nightlife is so important. And we as city councilors have always, we've talked about nightlife and some of the, I guess what we hear a lot is the concerns sometimes that it brings to certain parts of our neighborhoods. And what I stress to my colleagues is that we need to be as involved as possible in creating that identity and reducing some of those concerns. So anything that you can do collaboratively with us, I would definitely stress the importance of it.
We appreciate it and know that you have full partners in this administration, you have full partners in licensing and permitting. We have, I think, one of the best, if not, we have the best city service team in the country. The city service team, for those who don't know, because we permit every event and every film in the city, is comprised of police, fire, HEMA, licensing, permitting, DPW. I mean, basically what happens is we facilitate a process in permitting. You put your event into our portal, you tell us what that event's gonna be like. And depending on what you put in the portal, it pings different departments. So if you can have tents, then you got Lima on you and fire going, okay, let's check these tents and make sure they're not gonna blow away. If you can have liquor, that pings licensing. And so it's a really great process. And truly, we have a team of people who do their damnedest not to say no, but we're keeping in mind, making sure that the people of this city remain safe. And so there is an appetite to continue to work on making sure that we provide the conditions for a healthy nightlife activity. And what I'm really, really proud of is looking at the synergy that public safety is creating, or this conversation that they are supporting between businesses and residents. Part of our city service process is that if you're gonna have an event that's gonna affect public space, noise, parking, blah, 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 it's on the organizers to have a conversation with all those businesses and residents in the area. And this modeling of behavior that is creating these conditions for residents and businesses to be in conversation and collaboration with each other is really a way that we have been fostering much healthier relationships in this space of producing events, particularly at night. And so we're keenly aware of it. And we're doing all that we can, again, to make sure that we can build this sector, but to do so in a way that that people understand what the rules are, but more importantly, understand that we're all trying to live and be, and quality of life is important for all of us. But we want to make sure that we create the conditions for a robust economic opportunities that are offered in that nightlife. But also there are cultural equity issues in continuing to stifle that sector, because there are people who work at night. And as we try to police one thing, it actually sometimes gets in the way of folks just trying to go to work and come home and
Put food on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I appreciate those comments, sincerely, Director. My next question, is in regards to PVD Fest. First and foremost, definitely, thank you to the mayor and your team for not relocation, for bringing back PVD Fest to its original location. I was getting ready to organize a protest if I didn't see that change, Director.
And we wanted to avoid that, so.
Yeah.
No, but I do appreciate, because I mean, even with the decision last year, you made yourself available to folks in the community, and you were as open and dialogue receptive as possible. So I mean, with that being said, I do appreciate that. But my concern with it is the specific change or the decision to keep no open container as a rule. Do you have any thoughts or comments, opinions on keeping that decision in place?
Okay, lots of thoughts. What I will say is this is a public safety concern. And quite frankly, I believe that we are creating conditions for businesses downtown to capitalize off of there not being PVD Fest sponsored bars, number one. Number two, I think that we are allowing for block parties, we are allowing for expansion of premises this year. You just can't leave the establishment with the beverage. I think it's a great compliment. You know, I think also it's important. I'm gonna get in the weeds here a little bit about this, because I think there's been this coupling of liquor and this festival. Look, I love the drink. We can go ahead on tonight. But there's this coupling of liquor and festival, which I think devalues the power of festival. Give me an example. We have another placemaking initiative through the League of the National League of Cities and we call One Nation One Project. And we have embedded artists, Batty Kumba and Carolyn Briones into Providence housing communities. So this is a partnership also with Providence Housing. And we are a part of a cohort of 18 cities around the country that are examining art and wellness in the community. And so all these communities have created their own projects. We wanted to partner with Providence Housing. And out of these projects, these communities are developing, it started with low level, like painting sticks and like a yoga class or a thing like this. And then from this, they're developing prompts and themes about how they want to use art making to tell the stories of their community, okay? And the One Nation, One Project group came to Providence last year in the beginning of this process to interview the members of the community that we were focusing on this project. And to a T, the members at Chan Brown and Carroll Tower talked about art and wellness through a lens of PPE Fest. They talked about the festival as, and going back to the original impulse on PPE Fest was first developed in First Works through an NEA grant, an NEA Our Town grant. NEA Our Town grants are about placemaking and placekeeping. And so the idea of this festival is, yes, it has the liquor, yes, we have the food, yes, we have the music, but the real power of this festival, as the residents of Carroll Tower and Chan Brown said, was it does things like stem identity-based violence, because it's the one time in the city where you have people from every neighborhood, every walk of life, cross-sector, race, socioeconomic background. That's the power of PVE Fest. The power of PVE Fest is actually being able to walk down the street, walk down Washington, with having a different relationship to the city than you would usually have. Being in KP, and you're not waiting for a bus, but you're watching a fierce band. That's the power of PVE Fest. PVE Fest is the intergenerational program that we have. PVE Fest is about programming and platforming all of these artists, who many of these artists that we will have featured in PVE Fest this year have enjoyed the platforming. We think about the City Mayangas and our public artists, Aganza. I can go on and on about artists who PVE Fest for them has been a platform, and now they have national and international careers. So there's so much more about what PVE Fest is. And I think that people who come to PVE Fest will have every opportunity to buy a drink. You can stop at Julia's and have a plate of fried chicken and a drink, and you can literally walk in the next block and have another drink. What has been taken away, so to speak, is the capacity of you to be able to travel from one establishment to another with that beverage. I think it's a small, I really believe it's a small compromise. There was a lot that we did last year that many people perceived as there was a lot happening at one stage change. Location change. And then we didn't allow for block parties, and we didn't allow for expansion of premises. And all of that was about us examining, again, our capacity in terms of our city service capacity. And you all know this as well as anybody, we have a shortage of police and fire in this city, right? And so that's the reason why you look at our budget and you see our security line for what it is. Because we work in concert with police and fire and these private security teams to help supplement the work that we do in the city, because we also want more than one thing to be able to happen in the city, you know, at a time like the weekend. So I hope I hope I didn't skirt your question, but I really do believe that we're giving our downtown businesses the chance to make all that money. We're having one PVE Fest sponsored bar with a stage this year, which is, I can't tell you about that collaboration yet, because I can't tell you about it yet. But I think that we are giving our business downtown every opportunity through the expansion of premises, through their capacity to have block parties this year, and by moving the experience from the festival from I-95 District Park, which the other thing is, District Park didn't provide us a lot of infrastructure support, you know. So for example, when it rained, there was nowhere to go except shelter in place, rather than, I keep using Julia because we love her. Go to Kent, spend 4 hours and buy up all of Julia's stuff, or go to George and buy everything they have to drink, or we didn't have an infrastructure. So I think this increased infrastructural support, I think people won't be as angry about not being able to carry that pineapple 20 feet to get to the next drink.
No, I appreciate that, Director, and I mean, I would agree with most of what you said. I would even take it further that our society has a certain relationship with liquor that, in my opinion, isn't the healthiest at times. And it really isn't a strong opinion of myself. It's just something that I'm being told and shared with by certain community members, with the options that you have mentioned, I think it's, I don't think it's a hill that anyone should die on at the end of the day. And yeah, I mean, I would say my last comment in regards to that is, you guys should definitely grab a drink. That's both what you guys today. My last question, super minor, there is a item in your expenditure that says, training, 7,500 for training. Can you just elaborate on that? I think it's a very reasonable amount. I think, city government should be investing more in worker development. So I'm just curious on what your idea is with that.
5,000 that came from a previous miscellaneous line, and we know how much y'all love miscellaneous lines. So we removed that miscellaneous line, and put that into training, because best practices in this industry sometimes can change overnight. COVID is a prime example. And so cultural competency, best practices in this industry, being able to go to conferences and meet with cultural stakeholders around the country and world are important to us. Whether it be, I even look at my colleague, this will get a shout out, and Ellery gets embarrassed by it. But part of this budget will not only take Ellery's position off of ARPA funding, but also provide the title of our fiscal and operations manager for the Department of Art, Culture, and Tourism. And this is the first budget that I can remember in a long time that I've been told that we are on target and under budget this year. PBE Fest was on budget this past year, and that is in large part because of this person. And so to continue to develop her skills as a fiscal manager, last year we continue to be a part of a group called the Global Cultural Districts Network. A lot of the information, for example, that I gleaned coming back from Montreal last year has influenced some of the projects that we're working on now in terms of quality of life and planning. Again, seeing best practices around how to occupy and reimagine public space. So us being present as a department in this sector, out at national conferences, I have the great privilege, I was selected to attend Harvard and the Kennedy School this year for it's a 7-month program for executive leadership. I mean, these opportunities are really important, and I really value it because I'm coming into this with a completely different set of skills. I can outlearn lines on all y'all, I can outsing y'all, I can outdance y'all. I can stand on stage and sing in a loud, clear voice. I can tell a good story, but there's certain things I think it's important that people like me in positions like this, and I can only get better at my job. Ellery can only get better at her job, and every member of my department can only get better at what they do by having these opportunities. And so the biggest way I respond is, again, best practices in this sector are changing all the time, and especially, for example, when it comes to even technology in the sector. And so us being able to engage with our cultural partners around the country and around the world is really important. That's where that money is going toward.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Graves.
Go ahead.
I want to get back to the nightlife part of it, and how each side, we all hear the problems that happens with nightlife. Most of the people or the places they're buying right in the residential area. While we all want to thrive in something, because we were all young at one time. So we can relate, but we all have sectors that kind of quiet or industrialized, and that's just what, when I was out there in the streets, we had Eddie Street, and Eddie Street was a broad thing. I mean, we had clubs from one end to the other end, and you used to go from one to the other, and there really wasn't a lot of residents there. I think maybe we need to go back to that. I know we don't want, sometimes we don't want to get caught up in that red light district, and then everything is so negative or whatever. And you should know what I'm talking about, being a Northern child.
I know what you mean.
So Bourbon Street is wonderful during the day. Bourbon Street is wonderful with, when bodyguards not there. Bourbon Street can get really raunchy what it is, but it still serves its purpose. So I think maybe if we can figure out where in our area we could put something like that and try to maybe help businesses that are, because we have the Paris in my area. They haven't really been functioning because we were getting just too many complaints. The house directly behind them has 2 floors with tiny kids. I mean, we're talking from infancy to like 8. And after 8 or 9 o'clock, they don't want all that loud noise and the music. And they had a history of taking the speakers out and putting them in the backyard. And of course, you could hear it all throughout Smithfield. So I think maybe if we can sit everybody down and come up with something, we can do that, because you definitely people need a release. Whichever way, before I used to sing and dance out there in the streets, now I sing and dance for the Lord in church. But that don't mean I can't move and probably can still sing. That's this time.
Yes, Councilor Peterson.
So I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions. The first is that I'm very appreciative of the culture that you're bringing to this department. I think it's extremely important that we recognize just how impactful that is, even from a small department like yours and what it does for the city. So I want to thank you, because you're literally, with these various opportunities, you're putting Providence on the map. So thank you for that. And my second comment is that as a parent, I appreciate a PVD fest where I can do things with my family and, do things during the day with the kids. And then if we have an opportunity to have a babysitter, do some stuff at night, which doesn't happen very often. But so thank you for doing that, because I very much enjoyed having it over in this area as well. One of my questions is, it's kind of like a question comment, but in terms of the grants that you provide and the 2 different cycles that you do, how many people or how many organizations are you approximately funding each cycle?
Oh, God.
Rough numbers.
Well, for example, our grant making in 2023, we funded 68 artist-led projects throughout our 3 community grant programs, because we also had a small pot of money that we administered called the Eli Fund in collaboration with the Parks Department. And so we administered about 68 of those projects, and we seeded funding to over 200 artist organizations across 10 provinces, 15 wards. And we're continuing to try and expand, and our goal is to make sure that we have representation from all 15 wards to start grant making. That is a goal.
Yeah.
But I had, let's see what other numbers I have here. And Emily, if you see something that I don't know about.
68 is a good number, don't
Great.
Yes. Yeah. Stick with that one. No, it's very good to see that there was such an expansive and there's a resource available to our local community to be able to get even the funds that you were able to give. If I could make one recommendation, as somebody who understands the grant dynamic really well, I think it's really important when you're asking of people or organizations of a fiscal sponsor that we understand what that fiscal sponsorship entails. Sometimes it's a donation back or something in that effect. So that little pot of money that you're giving is already reduced again. And we know that the dollar doesn't stretch as much as it used to. So that's just an observation and a recommendation. My official last question, and I promise, is ACT serves the council in various ways. Would you be able to break down how you serve the council?
Yeah. First of all, we can come back to this, but I don't believe that people get grants and this will have to pay them.
Not according to the policy we follow.
Okay, good.
Check back on that.
Good, I appreciate that.
Every
Sometimes
single
they
dollar
do.
goes to the artists, they're not.
Good. That's actually very nice to hear. Because in other opportunities you've seen where even just the smallest of donation to be able to be the fiscal sponsor, not that it's not necessarily. It's not accepted norms, it still happens, so.
So to give you a sense, we support your constituents we permitted last year 294 events throughout the city of Providence. That includes 161 block parties and neighborhood events. And also 36 different festival celebrations. How we also support the council, we supported you all, we produced 60 events in partnership with city departments and community partners, all 25 neighborhoods. That included 22 council events, 32 recreation center events and performances. And again, this department produces 6 large-scale events that includes Pops in the park, Hanukkah, this year New Year's Eve, our downtown tree lighting, which was off the chart this year, if I say so myself. Yellow Day was fun, and Independence Day and PVD Fest. And so we also serve you all through holiday activations, Christmas tree lightings. Oktoberfest, block, yeah.
I just appreciate having it on record so people are aware of all the wonderful things that you're also
I
doing.
appreciate it, thank you.
In terms of the permitting costs, when a person has to, let's just say they want to close their street down. What is that cost that has to go back to the taxpayer, the constituent?
Sorry,
The permit costs?
Yes.
If they want to close their street down, how much does it cost to get that permit?
I don't know the exact cost of that permit. I don't believe it's actually cheaper to close the street down
Mhm.
than it is oftentimes to activate in a venue or a park. I can say that.
Okay,
But it varies by event.
but it
And
varies.
size
So
of
if
the
it's,
event.
the reason why I'm asking is because it's literally happening in this moment with one of my constituents. Wants to close the street down because she's having a birthday party for her son. What are the parameters that she would have to face or do in order to just be able to close her street down for 6 hours for the day?
Come to the city service process,
Okay,
and it's not a difficult process. We just want to make sure. The thing about city service process is also about us knowing what's happening. And so she'll work with the team, she'll work with DPW, they'll work with providing the resources to close the street, but there'll be barricades, depending on the event, and if there's liquor, then that's the thing that we have to deal with, or if there are gonna be tents, is there gonna be amplified music? So just come through the process. It's not a difficult process, and it's not exorbitant at all.
great.
It's for a small scale event like that, it really isn't. The team will work with her, and do everything they can, even down to dropping off the barricades. Depending on the size of the event, that dictates whether, police may say, I need X amount of cops there, that won't be the case here. For an event of this scale, it's mostly about notification, and mostly about, again, we're giving the neighbors a heads up that the streets will be closed, and out of courtesy saying, hey,
Understood.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Brandon, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I will take the motion to, motion continue. Motion to continue. All the items 1 through 7. Second motion to continue by Councilor Rainbow, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? And then motion to adjourn.